Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Confidentity. Microphones to Boardrooms, my journey to becoming an executive coach. I'm Jezebel Martinez Fabregas. I'm an executive coach and former head of communications and director for global marketing. Today, I want to share something deeply personal, the story behind my voice. Because if you'd met me 20 years ago, you'd have thought I'd be here speaking for a living, coaching executives around the world, and helping leaders command a room, a board, or a screen. Back then, I was shy, introverted, the kind of person who avoided the spotlight, and yet the spotlight became my home. It all began between 2006 and 2010. My first professional battle wasn't against competitors, it was against my own introversion. I had started my studies at the University of Seville when I was 18. The shy dreamer from the little town of Huelva in Andalusia hit the capital of the region, determined to study audiovisual communication and journalism. Just a couple of months after I started the degree, they ran a personality test to all the students. Guess my results? 90% introvert and the clear statement, you don't belong to the camera, you can be behind it. I was devastated. I felt all my dreams ended there. I went to the radio station in Huelva, Cadena Ser, one of Spain's most respected radio networks, and I asked the presenter if I could collaborate with her during the weekends, so I could learn from her. In a couple of months, I was part of the team as a trainee, and the following summer, at the age of 19, I was already running Hora 14, the news. There, I learned how to use my voice before I dared show my face. I remember those early mornings in the studio, microphone on, red light flashing, heart pounding, trying to make my words sound confident even when I didn't feel it. But something shifted. Rebroadcast chipped away at my fear. Every interview taught me that communication is less about perfection and more about connection. When television called, I said yes. Terrified, but curious. Those years on TV taught me to perform under pressure, to lead with presence, and to realize that confidence isn't the absence of fear. It's the decision to keep going in spite of it. That was my first transformation from silence to voice. Between 2010 and 2015, I moved into the academia, lecturing at the university. Teaching students gave me clarity about what true leadership looks like. It's about influence, empathy, and storytelling. It was during that time that I was invited to support the Spanish Navy during the Flotex 12 military maneuvers, a defining moment in my career. For a few months, I was in and out of the naval base of Rota in Cádiz, Spain, surrounded by hundreds of Navy staff members, from sub-officers to commanders. I spent weeks on board of the Juan Carlos I, the flagship of the Spanish Navy. During that time, I trained officers and crisis teams in public speaking, media relations, and negotiation under pressure. We explored how the disciplined logic of military strategic communications can elevate negotiation outcomes in the civilian world. Imagine this: rows of uniformed officers, simulations running, journalists waiting, and my job was to help them communicate calmly when everything felt like chaos. That experience changed everything. It was no longer about speaking well. It was about living through communication, through intention, and through direction. I fell profoundly in love with the mindset of strategic communications and how that mindset can elevate negotiation inside institutions, between institutions, and between the public and the private sector. That's where my coaching journey truly began. It was the moment I realized communication isn't a soft skill, it's a strategic weapon. After defending my PhD in strategic communications and how the Francoist system used it to try to perpetuate Franco's legacy after his death on November 20th, 1978, I felt I wanted more than what the university could give me. In 2015, I joined the European Commission as a strategic communications consultant. I moved from the world of microphones and the corridors of the university, where I have been lecturing for 5 years, to the corridors of power, advising EU project officers on how to communicate and disseminate innovation, policy, and impact. My early morning cafes at the FCOM in Seville quickly switched to walking cafes on my way to the Parlement or at the European Parliament, and soon enough to cafes and taxis on the way to the airport to travel to each one of the EU member states. The Brussels chapter of my life is about a Spanish girl from the humble Andalusia reaching a city where almost everyone spoke at least 5 languages, had lived in at least 3 countries before they turned 20s, and they had master's degrees by the most renowned universities in Europe. And I was there. Sometimes I felt so small, especially that moment they asked me, "Where are you from?" And I responded so excited that the E went of course in front of the S. "Spanish," I said. And they said, "Of course." I felt so embarrassed. I thought I would never fit in there. But I decided to turn that humility, low origins, into my biggest strength. I became the girl who came from the humble origins, but who managed to arrive to the same level that the high-born. Working in Brussels taught me diplomacy, narrative design, and stakeholder management at the highest level. One day, brave scientists on storytelling. The next, I helped policymakers frame their message for citizens or for media. I learned to translate complexity into clarity, and that skill became my trademark, even if my English was not perfect. In the end, my Spanish accent preceded me and was part of my personal brand. The Spanish girl who represents the European Commission all over Europe with her particular accent. During those years, I understood how communication drives influence, not only in media, but in boardrooms, ministries, and multinational environments. I've shared tables and dinners with heads of states, ministers, secretaries of states, and still in all those events, I discovered something that could define my coaching later. Even the most senior people in the world struggle to speak with confidence and clarity when stakes are high. I remember one of the first colleagues I had to train at the European Commission, a brilliant engineer promoted to AD. He told me once, "I know my data, I know the project, but every time I get into the room, I get lost. This is so important. Why do I have to explain it to them? What if they don't understand it? Why are they doubting me?" I patiently explained to him that his audience was not doubting him at all. His audience considered him as the only gate to understand the technology he perfectly knew. That switch in his understanding changed completely his approach. We worked on the message, prepared the slides, matched them with stories and metaphors that could help the audience understand the story better. The audience loved the presentation and they loved him. And that day, when I saw everyone praising his speech, I understood what my role was in this world. I was meant to make other people shine. Years passed in the European Commission and I was feeling more and more in love with this mixed role of strategic communications consultant and public speaking advisor. Destiny was planning a twisty plot from my little adventure in Brussels. March 16th, 2020. COVID is hitting Europe sharply, and the Belgian government confines the whole country as it happened in the rest of the world. I had just started a new position inside of the EU bubble, and I was in charge of the Research and Innovation Days, one of the biggest events in Brussels with around 20,000 participants every year. With COVID-19 hitting harshly the global markets, the event was clearly at stake. Many other projects of the company had already been shutting down, and saving online days literally meant the survival or closure of the business. I was called for a meeting with the founders. The expectations were to either cancel the event or hold something online for a couple hundreds, thousands of euros. But that amount of funding was not enough to keep the company alive. I prepared an online event proposal that could mean a new concept of the R&I days in the years to come. An online event that after COVID could evolve into a hybrid event that could help them showcasing innovation across Europe while keeping a responsible expenditure in a crisis situation. We secured the funding, 5 million euros for an event that was totally a success and was held in November 2020. I wouldn't see it on site because despite that success, every night I went to bed with the same thought in my head. What if I don't manage to see my family again? That thought was draining my energy, and one morning I woke up and I made the decision to look for a job in Spain and move as soon as the confinement was over. July 2020, I moved to Barcelona to hold the position of responsible of external communications. I was then in charge of leading the strategy, managing global teams, creating the team personal brand, ghostwriting and drafting speeches, and working directly with C-level executives across Europe and beyond. Suddenly, I was the one sitting in boardrooms shaping narrative, crisis responses, and investor messaging. My job was to make the invisible visible, to turn strategy into stories that moved people, teams, and markets. Working with CEOs and senior leaders, coaching them into their public speaking exercises, I saw one truth again and again. Success depends not only on what you know, but on how you communicate it. I remember one director that every time he was going to speak, everyone, even the toughest in the room, stopped talking and listened to him. He had what we call gravitas, because he had the ability to tell what he knew in a way that others could understand, learn, and replicate it. So he was inspiration for others. Over the last 5 years, I've had the privilege of working with international partners from Europe, Middle East, Asia, and the USA especially. From startup CEOs to innovation leaders and institutions, from artificial intelligence to urban mobility to online education platforms, building bridges between people, technology, and purpose. But something else was growing inside me. The desire to help others do the same. I was close to 40, and inside of me, I was remembering more and more that episode at the European Commission. I was missing the reward of teaching others to make them grow. As this beautiful metaphor goes, conductors don't make any noise, but they guide the orchestra to make music. It was time to take everything I'd learned from the radio studio to the workroom, from the classroom to the boardroom, and turn it into a system to help others lead through their voice. That's how my official coaching practice was born with Confidentity. There came a passion for restructuring the messages, rewire mindsets, and reframe processes. By the end of our program, the first clients were already proving my initial theory. Influence is not the volume of the speech, it's the clarity of intention. With a couple of sessions, they were starting to be able to lead the conversation, own the room, and close deals of hundreds of thousands of euros. It's a transformation I live for. Because behind every confident leader, there is someone who once doubted their voice and decided to train it. If I could summarize what 2 decades across media, the Navy, the European Commission, and the corporate leadership taught me, it would be these 3 points. 1. Communication is leadership. You can't separate the 2 of them. 2. Presence is built, not born. I wasn't born confident. I became it, word by word, moment by moment. 3. Your story is your power. Whether you are a CEO, a naval officer, or a student, people don't follow titles. They follow truth. So if you're listening today and wondering, can I really become the confident version of myself? The answer is yes, you can. Because if I could go from an introverted journalist hiding behind a microphone to coaching global executives on stage and on camera, so can you. My mission now is simple: to help professionals, especially those navigating international environments, to find their voice, own their story, and communicate with courage. If you'd like to start that journey, you can download my free guide, Confidentity, Train Your Confidence until it becomes your identity. Or you can book a discovery call to explore how I can help you become the communicator your career deserves. Thank you for listening and watching the first episode of Confidentity. If this story resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear that confidence isn't a gift. It's a decision. Until next time, keep speaking up, keep showing up, and never forget, your voice can change everything.